I just think that there are still some really clear vulnerabilities in this Tottenham side. And if Arteta gets his tactics right, and he's proven, I think, year after year that he's improving as a manager, that the team is better equipped to deal with different scenarios. Add set pieces into the equation, which we're really strong at. I would certainly say is a weakness of yours. I think Arsenal can win, and I think if Arsenal are clinical on the day, it could get ugly for Spurs.
4-1 Spurs.
Flav.
No, what?
You are setting yourself up here. 4-1 Spurs.
Yeah, what?
We got nothing to lose, just me and you, me and you.
Lose control.
Welcome back to Settle the Score, part 2 of the North London Derby edition with myself, Harry Symeou, and Flav Bateman, of course, Tottenham Hotspur fan. Flav, how you feeling, mate? You were pretty pumped and pretty confident going into this one.
I'm feeling fantastic, Harry. How do you think I'm feeling? All right. This is, we all know it and we all understand it, but this is unfortunately where I have to take my medicine, not just here, but everywhere. You give it out, you get it back. That's the nature of football and fandom and partisanship. So I'm not, the Arsenal are very good. So sometimes you just got to go, we could have played that game for 3 hours and I don't think we'd have scored. So you got to hold your hands up and go, better team won probably.
You were pretty confident that Tottenham were going to score. Understandably so, because Tottenham, for all their faults defensively, are a pretty good attacking unit. They certainly create chances anyway. So you had plenty of reason to believe that they were going to turn up on the day and really test Arsenal's defence. But it never really happened, did it? I watched the game back last night and I couldn't believe that at any point in the game I actually felt nervous, because watching it back the second time, without that emotion, it was clear to me that Arsenal were so comfortable sitting on the edge of their box for long periods of that game. Yeah,
that's it. I think there's a couple of things. There's Arsenal. Arteta came into it, and he demonstrated the last year when he went to Manchester City, determined not to lose, but also to ensure that the title race wasn't done there and then. And as it turned out, part of the reason why you didn't win the league last year was because you weren't able to win there, which is a really difficult thing to do. So you understand it, but there's a pragmatism to the way Arteta is going about his business, which means that his game management has been impeccable, which is a juxtaposition to where we are with Postecoglou, who has, this is the way I play. Arteta, through the years, has transformed to a manager who can adapt to the opponents. And while he did that, for sure, and we just weren't able to, apart from the first maybe 5-10 minutes, 15 maybe, when Solanke had that chance, and Brennan Johnson had that chance, the half chances, Arsenal defensively had complete control. It's kind of like what you would see from perhaps a George Graham side, where set pieces were so important. Less the direct football, though there was a lot of direct football as well, given the high line and whatnot. But it was you were frustratingly efficient. It just felt like we're never going to get there. So
I've got to say, Flav, I feel like Spurs are toothless. I feel like they lack a punch in attack. And we've talked all season about the chances they create, but their inability to convert them. Dominic Solanke come in. I thought he was getting way too much praise in the first half from the commentary team. I thought he was okay and he worked hard and he put himself about, but you never felt at any point that he was going to breach the defence. And then talking about lacking a punch up front defensively, where is that solidity from Tottenham? Like, where is that want to defend? It just isn't there, especially from set pieces.
Well, set pieces is a big issue. We need to work on that for sure. Evidently, the last 2 games at White Lane against Arsenal, we were undone by set pieces, and this one we were undone by set pieces. But defensively, across the 90 minutes, we didn't give up that much. Actually, if you look at it, it wasn't like Arsenal carved us open. Very rarely. And that was our main undoing last year, is that we were just getting ripped on the counter-attack constantly. And we're not seeing that this season, even against Arsenal, against Newcastle. Albeit we did concede on a counter against Newcastle. But I think the defensive aspect is improving significantly. And the reason why I sort of rated, and I continue to rate, Romero and Van der Ven so highly is because what's being asked of them, given the system, which is, you have to give context when you're talking about these defenders and what they're asked to be doing. When they're playing in this system, they have to do a lot more than what Saliba and Gabriel do. They have to play almost 8 or 9 elements of a centre-back's role in one game. because they're not protected by the system, whereas they're being expected to counter the negative aspects of Postecoglou's tactic. Whereas Gabriel and Saliba are impeccable defenders who fit perfectly, certainly in a game like yesterday. It's like centre-back's dream for Arsenal. Just complete protection, and wherever you got the option, Saka's there, or Sterling when he comes on, and Jesus and Havertz to hold the ball up. Those options are there. And when you want to play that kind of football that Arteta played yesterday, and you have the quality, it's almost impossible. Can't say anything else.
Are you still having Vicario over David Raya? Are you still having Van der Ven over Gabriel? Because I didn't think it was a debate in the first place, but I feel like those debates have maybe been put to bed after what we saw yesterday. Gabriel,
it's Van der Ven.
I will reluctantly allow you to have Van der Ven in there because I've been really impressed with him.
Van der Ven in Arsenal's system would be perfect. You would have the best centre back in the league. I'm still having Van der Ven over Gabriel for 100%.
On what basis?
Because of he had an excellent game yesterday, Van der Ven. There wasn't an issue with him. Romero lost Gabriel for the goal. Gabriel's getting a lot of plaudits here for because he scored a goal, right? And no doubt he had a great performance as well, but the entire back line did. It's not like Gabriel stood out. I'm not here to dump on Gabriel or Saliba or any of them today because you can't. Evidence is what it is. But to say there isn't a conversation between Van der Ven and Gabriel is unfair. Arsenal fans are going to bang on about Gabriel. Spurs fans are going to bang on about Van der Ven. In our system, he is crucial to us. Without him, we would be lost. And so I see every merit in Van der Ven, and I won't have it any other way.
I think he's a good defender. I think he's a good centre-half, but
great defender.
There's something missing still with Van der Ven. And I appreciate what you're saying about the system, and that certainly doesn't help. And the way Ange Postecoglou's sides continue to leave the centre-backs exposed is a big, big problem, in my opinion. And unless Spurs fix that, they're not going to win anything. And Ange Postecoglou stood there again very confidently after the game and said, no, I don't normally win things in my second year. I do win things in my second year and nothing's changed. Well, if he doesn't win the Europa League, Flav, what's he going to win? And is he even capable with a defensive setup like that of winning that? Because you could talk about the improvement defensively generally and the fact that they're maybe less vulnerable to counterattacks than they were in the past. But they're still soft-centred. They're still really easy to get at. They still lack a punch in attack. I haven't got any belief that Tottenham, and take the rivalry aside for a minute, I can do that from time to time. They're not good enough to win the Europa League. And are they good enough to win a League Cup? Not for me.
Well, a League Cup's a lottery. Depending on who you get, you can win it. A League Cup doesn't really do much anyway. No one's going to get Spurs. We win a League Cup, and no one's going to go, we're not going to dig out Spurs for not winning a trophy anymore. They're going to go, it's a Tin Pot Mickey Mouse Cup. It doesn't count, right? So we know that already. Europa League, look, the results haven't gone our way. Performances have been there. Toothless is unfair. I think you're being unfair there. I think yesterday we could have had fangs like a friggin' saber-toothed tiger and we wouldn't have got through. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. I think it's still. I still see massive improvement on last year, and that's going to wind people up. Spurs fans are going to be going. They're already getting irritated with me being too positive, and Arsenal fans are going to think I'm deluded. I don't care about any of that. This is genuinely how I feel. I do see improvements. Defensively, we are better than we were last year. The Europa League will have some element of surprise because some of these teams aren't going to be necessarily been as focused on Postecoglou and Tottenham as the Premier League has been. And I think it will be a different type of football as well in European football. So yeah, of course we can win the Europa League. I mean, there's maybe 5 or 6 really good teams in it. You navigate them, you've won it. But given the fact that we haven't won a European trophy for 84, I think it was. So, it's a long shot in itself. It's not about winning anyway. You get all mucked up. It's not about winning trophies. It's about taking part.
It's just about enjoying the ride, right?
Enjoying it, yeah.
Are you a little bit worried though about what the rest of the season holds for Spurs? I know you're staying super positive, but does it not frustrate you, Flav, that you've turned up this season and a lot of the same issues are still there? I know you've highlighted a couple that are things that you think are better, and that's fair. You watch them more than I do. I'm not gonna push back on that. But surely it must be frustrating when you turn up in these games and you see the same issues. I mean, surely
for sure.
Surely we've got to talk about Vicario in these instances because surely he's got to dominate his 6-yard box way better than he does.
You're right, and I think that there is when Dragusin is in there, he protects him much better than Van der Ven and Romero do. But also Arsenal's, I don't know why more people aren't copying what Arsenal are doing. I know there's a guy behind the scenes who knows what they're doing, but the way they set up, and you can see like the back end of the box, and they just move in unit, and they're impossible to track. Everyone's going to lose their markers, as we saw with Gabriel, and it happened in the first half as well. And no one else is looking at it and going, "This is a really good idea. Like we need one of these guys." And maybe he will adapt, but Spurs at the moment it's just zonal, and it's a problem, and it has been a problem before the Arsenal game. The set pieces are something that need to be fixed quickly. However, based on what I've seen, based on the performances, the possession and the opportunity to create is there. Solanke's had 2 games, one of them against Arsenal, and one of them in the very first game of the season. It's going to take him time to get up. I believe he's class. I hope he's class. I've seen enough at Bournemouth that I think, yeah, mate, it's going to be fine. Like, are we out of the top 4 race? Absolutely not. It's 4 games in. If you would have lost yesterday, you wouldn't have been out of the title race. So it's you've got to be careful about, and I know we're allowed to do this as football fans, in that we can be as reactionary as we want because that's our right. But if you see the bigger picture, from my perspective, I'm very comfortable, and I will remain to be that. But we do need to start getting results. Starting with Coventry on Wednesday becomes crucial now, and then Brentford at home next week.
I completely agree with you that it's too early, and I wouldn't jump to any conclusions with regards to where Spurs are at generally. But I don't know. If it were me, if it were my team, if I were looking at the same issues over and over again, then there would come a point where I'd get frustrated. And to be honest with you, Ange Postecoglou is starting to get on my nerves a little bit as well, Flav. I was one of the people that when he first joined, I wasn't buying the whole I'm a nice guy act and everybody should follow me. I felt that at times he was a little bit rude, and because he made jokes and things and said things in a certain type of way, I feel like people lapped it up. And now when the results aren't there, because remember at the start of last season, Tottenham were flying. When you compare that to now and the way those same types of comments come across, actually, I think he's going to be read very, very differently. Does that not worry you a bit?
Well, it doesn't worry me in that I already knew this. And the reason why I say this is because I did an interview with a guy called Vince Rigari. He's an Australian, sort of leading Australian sports journalist. And he wrote a book about it. And he talks about Ange's cantankerous behaviour and attitude in press conference when things weren't going right when he was manager of the Socceroos. So he has a track record. He isn't as fluffy as perhaps he was made to look in the media, and it was quite well managed probably by Spurs. Look, I don't care about whether people like him or not. I don't want him to. I actually found it a bit frustrating, like when people go, "No, I like Ange, he's all right," and you're like, "Well, don't want you to like him, want you to hate him, because if you hate him, it means we're winning." Yeah, man, I don't know. I can't say I've got a lot of time for Arteta either, but it is what it is.
I've got to say, we've spent a lot of this time sort of hammering Spurs and pulling them up on their weaknesses and stuff, which I think is fair to do after a result like that, particularly when the home side gets beat. But I do want to get in some praise for Arsenal, because this was.
I thought we were going to criticise. I thought we were going to find some criticism for Arsenal. Then.
There's none.
What? Are you going to Manchester City and playing like that?
Probably. I think a lot of what you saw yesterday from Arsenal was down to the personnel that they had available. I think that, and I'm not one of those people that's going to sit here and say that we've got a really weak squad and all of that. We've got a good squad, but it's just unfortunate for us that we lost 2 of our starting midfielders. Some would argue, I wouldn't say this just yet because it's too early, but some would argue that had he been fit and available, Marino would have played as well. In which case you're talking about a completely different midfield 3. But to me, it was Arsenal turning up and being together, fighting together, knowing that they had certain limitations because of the players available, particularly in that midfield. It wasn't a case of leave 1 6 and push your 2 8s on and leave loads of holes and spaces, because you know that neither Partey nor Jorginho nowadays can necessarily manage those spaces effectively. So to see Arsenal adapt, adjust, trust in their ability to make the difference from something like a set piece. Because there were times where I was looking at Bukayo Saka and I'm thinking, take him on. And he's quite happy to just win a corner, which says so much about how Arsenal went into the game believing they could win via something like that.
So Saka, what impressed me yesterday about Saka wasn't, obviously we know what he can do in that respect, but his economy with the ball. he doesn't lose it, and if he does, it goes out for an Arsenal throw-in. Do you know what I mean? He was so sort of sensible, and it wasn't kind of something you think about Bukayo Saka, and you think about him taking players on, cutting in, shooting on his left. But yeah, yesterday was frustrating because it was like, right, if you commit and we get the ball back, as we're pretty good at turning the ball over, you're like, there's an opportunity. And then it was like, it just wasn't allowing us to do it. And it was part of the control of the game. Like, we had a lot of possession, but you have to admit that Arsenal had control of the game. And Saka's sort of role in that was crucial. They kept mentioning about how young your bench is. So is that not going to be a worry through the season, though? Because I know Calafiori wasn't there, and I know you're missing Rice and Odegaard, but they said like 6 of them were under 18 or something.
Yeah, there was 5 of them that were 18 or under. There was a few names on that bench that I think a lot of Arsenal fans hadn't even heard of before. So the depth thing, I think a lot of us have been arguing that over the course of the summer window that, yeah, we got the 3 positions that we identified at the start. We needed a defender, a midfielder, and a forward, I felt, and we got one of each. So you could argue that the window was a success. But bodies-wise, because we rely on versatility so much, so you have certain players that you look at as cover for multiple positions, it can leave you short. We were without Calafiori, Odegaard, Rice, Tomiyasu was out as well, just to name a few. And that did leave us in a position where, yeah, you have to have kids on the bench. And that is a worry for me, Flav. I got to be honest, because yesterday it felt like we were, I don't want to say scraping the barrel because that's disrespectful to those young players, but we were literally looking for players to fill the bench in a huge game. And you can't afford to have that happen when the games start coming thick and fast. I mean, we got another game on Thursday, then we go to Manchester City. It can't continue like that, I feel. Like, no. You're asking people to empty the tank all the time. And we did that yesterday. So, Flav, to round off, you did predict a 4-1 Spurs win.
Did I?
You did. I've checked the tape. You did. It's a 4-1 win you went for.
Sure, I said that. 4-1 Spurs.
Flav.
No, what?
You are setting yourself up here. 4-1 Spurs.
Yeah, why not? It's a North London derby. Anything can happen. I'm confident in Tottenham because I should be. And you're the same with Arsenal. But yeah, it's still going to end up in a 4-1 drubbing. Did
you actually believe that? Or was that one of hope rather than anything else?
Yeah, why not? Of course. But, you've got to be... What do you want me to say? Oh, I think it'd be 1-1. Nah. Every single time we play Arsenal, every game I go into, in my head, I think we can still win the league. That's how I operate. That's the world I want to live in. And so imagining a 4-1 victory against Arsenal was where I wanted to be. That didn't come true, but we move on. It was bold, a little bit brash, a little bit arrogant. Part of the reason why I'm getting so much abuse online over the last 18 hours is because of the way, used to be bold / arrogant, and it's going to wind people up. So, it's better team won. What do you want from me?
It's the world you want to live in, but it's not the world we do live in. But I respect that. I admire that.
But I'm happy.
You're happy. That's all that matters. Flav, thank you so much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Flav is one of the few Spurs fans that I would sit and have a conversation like this with. So,
likewise.
So good to chat to you, mate. And see you next time. The next derby, a few months away.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.